speaking of the playoffs, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they got some updates throughout the week. Obviously, the Baltimore Ravens will not work with Lamar Jackson at quarterback. They have some other good news. First, let's run through the list of, I actually had it up and then closed it because, I do dumb things sometimes. The list of the Baltimore Ravens injuries of who they will not play. Odell Beckham Jr. will not play just because of a coach's decision. Neither will Lamar Jackson, obviously. Marlon Humphrey's out with a calf injury. Malik Harrison, linebacker, is out with a groin injury. And a bunch of other guys are out with, Daryl Worley, shoulder, and Kevin Zalter. Excuse me if I did not say that right. Coach's decision /knee /quad. On top of that, they have like a billion questionable guys. They have a safety, a Darius Washington. They have Tylan Wallace, who's out with it, or who's questionable with a knee injury. Brandon Stevens, corner, questionable with an ankle injury. Arthur Millette, shout out Arthur Millette, questionable with a hip injury. They got Kyle Hamilton, who I highly doubt plays against the Pittsburgh Steelers, dealing with a knee injury. Zay Flowers dealing with a calf injury, doubtful. I doubt he plays as well. Ronald Darby is dealing with an illness. He's questionable as well. Long story short, it is going to be, like you said, a cast of new characters coming out here for the Baltimore Ravens in Week 18 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Some people are trying to say, the backups to the Baltimore Ravens are still better than the starters of the Pittsburgh Steelers, this and that and this and that. I mean, you look at an injury list that includes like 13 guys. Do you feel the same way? Or you I feel like I'm on the boat of just sitting here and saying, it's definitely not a win. You never win until you actually win. Pittsburgh's got a pretty good shot to shut this one down early and just make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, that whole Ravens backups are better than the Steelers starter. That seems more like wishful thinking or some rivalry trash talk. Like there's just no way that's real. And I mean, I don't know, maybe if the Ravens backups are that much better than the Steelers starters, maybe they should have played in the first game that the Steelers and Ravens played. Because remember the Ravens lost that one? What are we talking about? This is ridiculous. That's like completely ridiculous. But I mean, yeah, obviously with an injury report that long, you definitely have some more confidence. The Steelers are going to be ultra motivated and the Ravens really don't have anything to play for. I mean, I've heard people talking about how, Harbaugh is going to get these guys up. He's going to bring up how many times the Steelers have denied the Ravens opportunities to move forward in the playoffs and make some noise in that sense. But just how much is that going to carry over into this year? I don't really know. I still feel like it's the Steelers who have the upper hand personnel wise, motivation wise.
Yes.
I mean, there's every reason for the Steelers to win this game. There's almost no reason for the Ravens to win this game or to even try to win this game. So, I think you just look at an injury report that long and there's no other take to have other than that the Steelers kind of have an upper hand going into this game, I think.
Do you worry about the fact that they lost to the New England Patriots and they lost to the Arizona Cardinals, and they were very open, the Steelers were, that they overlooked these guys? And this game is a game where, if you're looking at it at paper, the Steelers should smoke the Baltimore Ravens. You worried that this is a three-peat of, we maybe overlooked these guys?
Well, look, I mean, I guess that concern always just lingers after the examples that you listed. But look, you can't, this is your playoff spot on the line. Like, if you can't get up for this one, if you're overlooking a team in this situation, then you were never serious to begin with. Like you are not deserving of a playoff spot, and there will be, as Mike Tomlin says, some football justice from that. I don't know. This feels like an impossible game to not get up for. Regardless of who you're lining up against. I mean, we're allowed to us as spectators or journalists, we're allowed to kind of look at the 30,000 foot view and think about, okay, who's playing versus who's not, and what the kind of odds are and how we look at it that way. But if you're a player, I mean, you've got no other choice but to look at this as your biggest game of the season. Not just because it's the last one, but because there's a potential for more after it if you win and if you take care of business. So there's just no way you can overlook that. I don't understand how, especially after you lose to the Cardinals and the Patriots, that a Steelers player could be in that locker room thinking, oh, we're just going to run through this game. We're going to walk through it. It's going to be so easy. We don't even have to try.
No, I agree. I think that, and I think the difference is, there's a part of me that was real down on Mike Tomlin throughout the season, and especially during that slump. And I put a lot of that on. I put pretty much all that on him. But in this moment, it's different. Like this is a Mike Tomlin. This is as good as it gets from Mike Tomlin. This is probably gives you chills in the locker room beforehand. Everything you hear about the consistency. I think that Mike Tomlin is the most consistent human being on the planet when it comes to coaching a football team. I think that in these moments, just some of his consistencies that he uses all the time. You better cut your eyelids off because there's no blinking. Like, you toss one of those bad boys out in the locker room 15 seconds before you run on the field, juices are flowing. You're getting guys amped up. I think that he's got the Tomlinisms. He's got the motivation. This is a moment where consistency is great. Awesome. I get it. He always knows how to just toss a little something out there to kind of rev these guys up. And I think this is a moment that he waits for. I don't think he necessarily tosses that out against New England or against the Cardinals or against the Colts. I think it's much different in week 18 back up against the wall. This is what you got to do. I agree. I'm not, if they lose this game, I mean, there's just, just clean house. Go into the offseason and say, all right, well, how many guys can we get rid of? And how many people outside of the names TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick, and probably a Landon Roberts would we remove before we could start over? Outside of Pittsburgh, Trevor Lawrence is the big name to watch. I think a lot of people are down on the Tennessee Titans having an opportunity to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. Ian Rappaport of NFL Network says that he's not so sure Trevor Lawrence is going to play. Lawrence is dealing with a shoulder and a finger injury. He's been limited throughout the week. He hasn't been able to throw on a full capacity. Rappaport says that it's not looking great for him to play on Sunday against the Tennessee Titans. Let me ask this. Did you have any hope that it would be a game the Titans could win, and how much has that hope grown or maybe not grown, knowing that Trevor Lawrence might not be out there?
Well, honestly, I think I was a little higher on the Titans having a chance in this game, just sort of by virtue of just this NFL season being a little weird. Like,
yeah,
feel like anything can kind of happen, and the Jags are one of those teams that just, it seems like they can beat anyone or lose to anyone in any given week. So I think I was a little higher on the Titans. I kind of grew when I thought about the fact that it could be Derrick Henry's last game as a Titan.
As a Titan, could it really?
Yeah. So I think he might play with a little extra motivation. I think he might run a little bit angrier than he did earlier this season. And then obviously the Trevor Lawrence news, like, I think CJ Beathard is a fine backup, but it completely changes the kind of calculus. And as fine as he's been, it's just kind of a different animal facing that Tennessee's got a good defensive line. They got a good front seven. And I feel like, I don't know, Tennessee's going to be one of those teams that I think just leaves everything on the table. We've seen the way that Mike Vrabel, excuse me, that's a tough word. The way that he's been talking this week, like he is absolutely all in. I feel like he is more motivated for this game than I've ever seen him before. Not that I, follow the Titans very closely, but
yeah,
it seems like he has been, like, he may not have walked into this week, being as motivated as he was, but as soon as he started taking questions from the media, he started to get a little more pissed off and progressively more pissed off. And now he's like, you know what? I didn't really care about this game before we came into this week, but now that you all are asking me these questions, now that you all think that we have no chance, now I really want to win this game. So I feel like the Titans are going to be very motivated, and obviously, no Trevor Lawrence out there only makes me believe that they have even more of a chance.
Yeah, the laying out the Derrick Henry thing gave me a boost there. I didn't realize the Derrick Henry thing. I guess like that, it's obvious, but you just don't think about it.
Right.
That could be big. The Mike Vrabel press conference got me juiced up. That one got me. I don't know if it convinced me, but I was definitely watching that, and I was going, hell yeah, dude, losing does suck. Losing's terrible. Why would you want to lose? That one got me. The Trevor Lawrence thing. My thing is this. Everybody wants to put, and I'm about to ask this question, so maybe I'm already spoiling it for myself. But everybody wants to say, oh, well, the realistic loss is Miami because they're a better team and they're fighting for the AFC East. Like, they have to win. They have to fight and win the AFC East. Buffalo, in my opinion, is possibly the hottest team in football right now. Like, they, outside of the Cleveland Browns, they might be, like, if they're not 1A, they're 1B. And that's really tough because I said it the last 4 weeks. The hottest team going into the playoffs is the scariest team. And the Buffalo Bills right now are the scariest team. They want home field advantage. They want a team like the Miami Dolphins to have to go to Buffalo. They're going to hope that it snows the day that they show up. That's what they're hoping for. They're going to go in there, and I think that's a game that, I mean, it's Sunday Night Football for a reason. And I think the Dolphins are a lot better than people want to give them credit for, but I also think that they fold just as much as people say that they fold. I'm not totally convinced on that one. Tennessee's a game where, history will tell you. This is a game where this is a team that does not care, that's going to bring everything they got out there. They got a quarterback in Ryan Tannehill who understands that this could be his last opportunity to show the rest of the NFL, hey, look, I might be 35 years old, but I can still throw a damn football and I can win some games. And that's going to play a role. And the Derrick Henry thing on top of that, Mike Vrabel just trying to shut some people up and gain some momentum going. Like, Tennessee's a team that there aren't a lot of teams that spoil teams' playoff chances, that really spoil them. Tennessee's one of them, and Jacksonville being beat up and kind of being on the downfall right now. That's a game where I think a lot of people are just overlooking it, and maybe I'm totally wrong. That one to me seems just a little bit more like, if I'm the Steelers, I'm feeling better about that one than I am heading into Sunday night against the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I
That's
like
all right.
100% because I think people are kind of underrating the Dolphins. Like, I don't know. Everything I've seen has been kind of following your logic about, like, the Bills are just kind of the better team. The Dolphins are shaken up, or are beat up, excuse me. And people don't really, I feel like the general consensus has been kind of that Miami doesn't have a chance. And I really think that's kind of off base, especially because that game's in Miami. But I do agree that
true.
I think, but like that like the Bills are,
I get you.
Yeah, because I just feel like that Miami Buffalo game is a toss up, kind of in the same way that I think this Jaguars Tennessee game is going to be.
Do you think that Buffalo, like, what you think Buffalo is a more real, like, if you had to pick one of those games, so you were like, if you had to eliminate one and say, all right, the Steelers only get one shot, what game would you pick?
Oh, I would definitely. Oh yeah, I would definitely pick Jaguars losing to Tennessee. Like,
of
just
those two, but you're still a believer in Miami, full believer in Miami.
Yeah,
I mean, you would know.
Yeah, like I think I don't know. I think Miami, like, it was never going to be, like, I think most of what's ailing the Dolphins is on defense, right? And so
Yes.
I mean they were never going to stop. I don't know. I don't think they were ever going to come up with like a ton of stops against that Bills offense. I think they were going to outscore them. That was going to be really it was going to be whoever has the ball last, I think was kind of my logic. So I don't know. The injuries don't super scare me with Miami. I think they can still definitely win that game, but I still just think, like, no Trevor Lawrence, like we talked about, all the motivation that the Titans have. I still feel like that's the one that I would pick as the kind of, I guess the Steelers' best bet is how we kind of put it in our show notes. But, like, yeah, that feels like their best bet is kind of the Jaguars just collapsing a little bit and just falling under the pressure of those injuries and just not being able to sustain it all the way through a game, like a physical game against the Titans. Like, they're going to get worn down, I feel like.
Yeah. It's still good, though, that you have faith in Miami, because I think a lot of people are worried. Like, I've been talking to a lot of Steelers fans this week, and a lot of family members and so on and so forth who've been hitting me up and calling me and DMing me and whatever. And, man, I'm nervous about the Dolphins. I don't know if the Dolphins got it. I'm best friends with a Dolphins fan, like the only Dolphins fan I know. And even he is like, there's no chance they win this game. And I was like, wow, that's tough.
I really don't get that. Like, the Dolphins are a good team, man. Like, they were the number one seed for, like, I get it. They're inconsistent and everything like that, but, like, I don't know. They're fresh off a win against the Cowboys, right? That was their last game. Their last game was
they got smoked by the Ravens last week. But I think that honestly helps. I think that helps. Yeah. I think that a lot of people are overlooking them because they got smoked by the Ravens. I think the Ravens are a powerhouse right now. I think the only team, like, if I was to say, hey, give me your AFC championship if you could pick it, not knowing how it's all going to work out in the seeding and so on and so forth. Baltimore Ravens versus Cleveland Browns, And I don't know who's going to win that game, because I think that's going to be the best matchup that you could possibly present. Those are two absolute dominant football teams right now. But I think that they are head and shoulders above the Miami Dolphins, above the Kansas City Chiefs, above everybody else. The difference, though, is that the AFC is so stacked that I think the Miami Dolphins are head and shoulders above everybody in the NFC outside of the San Francisco 49ers. And that's just how the NFL has worked itself out the last decade. It's not anything new. I think the Dolphins are coming off a loss. You come off a big loss to Baltimore. People are going to overlook you. The Bills are going to overlook you. There's going to be so much going on. Buffalo's going to look at this as an opportunity. They're probably going to be like, well, Miami sucks. If there's an overlooked game, it's going to be Buffalo over Miami. I think that plays into Miami's favor, where everybody's going to pick against them, and they're just going to be like, dude, what are you talking about? We're going to win this game. Everybody's healthy. The defense is banged up, but Tyreek Hill is coming off a full game. If Jalen Waddle plays, that's huge. Tua is healthy. Your running backs are more healthy than they are. I think that's a good situation for the Steelers. I think both of these games are definitely a toss-up, which is just wild to say, because I think at the beginning of this week, my mindset, at least, you've been pretty much on the train of this could happen for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think I've been quietly telling everybody, yeah, I think the season's over after this week. I think that's what happens.
It's just keeping your expectations cautiously low, not trying to get ahead of yourself. I can appreciate that. You're not trying to let anyone get disappointed.
That's how it is. Everybody. So my birthday is in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and everybody's trying to plan birthdays right now. They're like, hey, what do you got going on in this? And I'm like, dude, I have no idea, man. I have no, ask me on Monday what my situation looks like, and I'll tell you the next 6 days. And outside of that, I don't have an answer for that one either, because if Pittsburgh ends up in Buffalo, that could happen. Pittsburgh ends up in Miami, that could they could win these games. That's getting ahead of ourselves, but it's just wild that's where the NFL's gone, which is great. You want to talk about parity. This is as good as it gets for the entire NFL and the entire Pittsburgh Steelers organization.